All right, guys, welcome to the Cup of Nurses podcast with your host, Matt Solarchik and Peter Findero. How you doing
So
today,
guys,
Peter?
I'm doing good. Late over here. It's like 3 a.m. But
We're actually recording a late night episode, guys. Just trying to make it happen.
yeah, I had my long ass skills day today too. That wasn't fun.
What'd you
It
have to
wasn't even
do?
that bad. It wasn't even that bad. It's just like restraints. What else did I do? Restraints, like how to deal with like behavioral patients. Majority was restraints, like safe patient handling, like how to transfer a patient over. There's actually like I don't know if you guys have that, but it's like a air mattress. So the thing goes like bed height. There's like
Oh,
5 levels to inflate. If
yeah.
you guys
So
have that on unit.
actually, the facility that I work at, they have them in every single room. Every single room has a hover mat. So it's pretty insane, and it helps with like the back and everything. So every patient, you just kind of like glide them, literally.
Well, no, I'm not talking about on the bed. I'm talking about like if they're on the ground or some shit. If they fall, then there's this like thing you put on, like it looks like a thin plastic mattress, but there's like 4
Mhm.
tiers to it, and you inflate one tier, and it literally goes from the ground all the way to like bed height
Interesting.
in case somebody heavy falls. But I've never used that in my life. I've never seen it up until today.
Testing new equipment. So, guys, for those that are new here, we just went on a little tangent. Thank you for listening. Keep on doing that. Share it with whoever you love. Smash that 5-star button, guys. So, what happens when you smash that 5 button? Believe it or not, we get ranked better. We appear in searches, and that means that we grow. And we want this podcast to grow. So, it motivates both me and PD to keep doing this. So, make sure you give us a 5-star if you can.
Yeah, do it, guys. Cheers on YouTube. We're breaking up small clips for you guys as well. If you guys don't like this long format as much, but that's going to be majority for YouTube.
So on today's episode, we're going to talk about surviving the night shift. We had somebody ask us a question on tips and how to do it, and then we're also going to talk about like the negative part of nursing, like what's wrong with the worst parts of healthcare, basically, that not a lot of people like to discuss.
Yeah, so for surviving night shift, there's like the 6 key things that we usually do to, get past it. Then it's getting enough sleep, eating healthy, being active outside of work, finding time on your days off to do things that you like, your hobbies, nutrition, like I said before, and then of course the caffeine. You can't have enough
So
caffeine.
getting enough sleep, do you think that you can get enough sleep even though you're fighting like the circadian rhythm the whole entire time?
Yeah, I believe so. Just because I sleep like a solid, I guess sleep a solid 6 to 8 hours if I really wanted to. And you gotta do things that promote sleep, like the blackout curtains are helpful, like a quiet room, or even like the meditation music in the background, or like a humidifier, essential oils. So anything to promote sleep. It's gonna be a little bit different than compared to like before when you were on days, just because you're flipped now, you're sleeping during the day, which is you're gonna need different kind of rituals, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Do you put any music on when you go to sleep before your night shift or regularly?
Before my night shift, or when or like afterwards.
Yeah, do you have like a routine? Because for example, for me, I don't need sleep music when I come in the morning because I just knock out. But if it's during the nighttime, like let's just say I'm going to sleep at 10 p.m., then I would like to put some music on because it kind of helps me get into the mood because that's normally my like awake time at work.
Yeah, for most part, the same. Like if I'm coming home from work, then I could knock out fairly quickly. But sometimes, like I get a little bit amped up in the morning because a lot of stuff to do, or I drink my coffee a little bit later. I mean, sometimes I just do music or podcasts. Like I do like that. Like those nature music noises where it's like the ocean or animals or just the forest or something. Or I just put like on a podcast, on like Joe Rogan or somebody like that. I just fall asleep to it.
Just kind of
Some kind of like, but yeah, just like it's more like a background noise more than anything else.
Okay. And then healthy eating snacks and staying hydrated. That's like another tip that a lot of people don't know, that it depends on what you snack and it makes a difference on how you feel. And like imagine just, drinking a late night can of pop at like 12 o'clock. Yeah, for sure. At like 2 a.m., you're going to have a crash, or eating like the snacks that are just not nutritious. And for some reason, we always tend to be eating worse on nights. I feel like the snacks are worse, man.
Yeah, just because strictly of availability. Even if you want to order food, you can probably order from a late night place like a gyro or like a pizza or whatever. And I think like the key portion for this would just be like meal prepping. Like if you bring a lunch, you're gonna be less prone to snacking. And if you do snack, hopefully you brought like a banana or like a granola bar that you could snack on, but it's gonna be healthy. Because especially at nights, some cafeterias are open, but even if they are open, there's not like anything crazy healthy to eat. Maybe like a salad that nobody really wants, or that salad's been out for the whole day already, or you get like pizza, which isn't healthy for the most part, and just you don't have very much
Listen,
variety,
pizza's not
so you're
healthy
better
for
off.
the most part, man. Thing is completely not healthy.
Or once in a while you can have a pizza. It's not gonna kill you, but there's not much variety, so you're better off probably meal prepping and just bringing your own lunch if you wanna stay healthy, and if you have like nutrition goals or weight goals that you want to hit, you're not gonna hit them by eating cafeteria food.
One thing I noticed too, that broccoli doesn't taste good for me at nighttime. So when I eat broccoli during the day, it tastes good, but when I like take it to work and I try to microwave it, it tastes like ass, man. I think there was 2 occasions last week where I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna eat this broccoli. I had no taste for it. It's weird.
Really, you ever put cheese on it?
I kind of try to stay away from dairy, man, as you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. Cheese on everything, makes it taste so much better
It
for me
does,
at least.
even like the eggs. And the other one was like trying to stay hydrated. So there's no way around it because sometimes we forget to like drink water. I notice it too. Like if I have like a cup of coffee and I walk into to work and then I don't sleep for 4 hours, or I'm sorry, then I work for 4 hours, like I feel thirsty.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
for me, staying hydrated, like usually when I get out, I don't have an issue. It's more of like the mid shift towards the end where like because when you're busy doing work, you really notice it, and then you finally sit down after like 4 or 5 hours, and you're like, my mouth is so dry. Like I should probably drink some water, or just like you just feel dehydrated. I know if I don't drink water for the majority of my shift, I definitely do feel dehydrated. My mouth is dry. I'm just not fully there. So I definitely try to bring like one of those like containers, like a shaker bottle, one of those metal containers, just so I could just drink as I go. And when I fill up the patient's water, I fill up the water for myself.
what makes it harder also is that a lot of places they don't allow you to bring on the containers at work. So nurses station, some of them don't want you to have any fluids at all, and that's kind of unfair because not only are you thirsty, it's hard to get a hydration because you got to run to the break room to actually get the water. But I try to define the law, and because we work night shift, we could bring the water bottles, so at least that helps us out a lot.
I've never heard of hospitals not allowing to bring water bottles. Does your hospital not let you to bring a water bottle? Because
To
there's
the
like I know you're not
nurse
supposed to
station.
keep them. I know sometimes you don't keep them at nurses station, but there's like a designated drink area, and like I don't know, like usually everyone's okay with you drinking at your desk as long as OSHA's out there or whoever the agency is that's coming to look around.
Maybe it's more like a day shift thing, but maybe because I just started in this facility, Kaiser, they're very, very anal about things. And one of them is things like charting and also about, you know, not having anything in front of the nurses station. So maybe that's them specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for us, like there's been times of the year where, but like I said, that's usually when someone's coming. I don't want to rat out my facility, but I don't think that's like, something big that that we should worry about for the most part. Like it's not like we're spilling the water on our patients. It's not like we're sharing drinks with our patients. But I feel like that's probably healthier for the nurse not to keep their water at the nurses station, just because you come out of patient's room, you come out of isolation room. Some people don't have the best hand hygiene, or they don't even gown up, and then they come sit at the desk, and who knows when that desk has been washed, when the last time the mouse was when the mouse was washed off or the keyboard was washed off. So I feel like keeping drinks by you is probably more toxic to yourself than anybody else.
That's true. I agree with that one. The
Even
other
though I do keep it on my desk, and I do drink it just because of convenience. I'm not gonna walk 20 feet just to get a drink of water. I'm just gonna keep it with me. But I just when I come in, I try to at least wash my workstation before I put my food there or my drink.
You are right. The next one is be active outside of work and active before after, like let's just say hitting the gym. So you have to develop a routine for that, and it sucks. You have to really push yourself, and not everybody could relate with this one because they have kids. They have to drop them off to school, so they can't get off. They can't get off night shift and go to the gym. But for example, for me, it works out because I can. So sometimes I try to go to the gym after work. I'll have my little pre workout. I'll have cup of coffee. Recently, I've been just fine, just being self-motivated and going into work or going to the gym. I'm sorry. And for those that have kids, like, why don't you go to the gym before work? Make it a routine where you leave an hour and a half earlier, even though I know that's a lot. Go work out really quick, get your activity in, go shower, and then put on your scrubs and go to work. That's totally possible. It just depends on how much you prioritize to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's really hard. It's kind of where it gets kind of tricky. Like every day, you're for sure not going to be able to do that. Maybe like once, twice a week. Because if you think about it, like let's say you got to drop your kids off in the morning. So you get off work, you drop your kids off. By the time you get home, school starts probably like at 9. So by the time you get home, it's probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock. Then you go to sleep, and you want to sleep at least 6 to 8 hours, right? At least 6 hours. So that's from, say you get home at 11. That's what, 5 o'clock you sleep till. You can't really go to gym if you start your shift at 7. But like the weekends, for the most part, you should at least try to go on the weekends if you can't do it every day. But like Matt said, it's really hard when you have kids, but you should still at least make an effort. Like try to go before work. It's easier said than done, but you should at least get like a day or two of physical activity during the week.
I think what's becoming trendy too is like there's like those giant monitor workout programs. Like it's like basically your own little personal coach, and it's just hooked up on a wall. You put it on and you kind of work out. So maybe if you're not okay with going to the gym, that could be like a solution.
Is that
And
at the gym, or do you buy one of those monitors?
you purchase
I've
one,
never heard
yeah,
of.
and it's a giant one that goes onto the wall, and you just turn it on. It's like a personal coach does your workouts with you and stuff. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
that might become more popular in the future as we become more homey, I guess, with technology.
Yeah, but does that just show you do like body workouts? Because I don't really would need to purchase like a giant screen to tell me what body workout should do. It's just like YouTube and a little bit of motivation for the most part. But I guess people like the fancy stuff. But
Yeah. And also
yeah.
you have like live classes. So you like log on and there's other people that are doing this live class with the
Oh,
instructor. So it's a whole program that gets more embedded into it. It could be for other people.
yeah, it's cool. Like for me personally, I like working out after work. If I'm doing like a 3 in a row, usually I would probably work out the first day. I would skip the second day, and I would, depending on how I feel after the third day. I usually try to go after the third day for the most part. But after work, usually most time I do go after the third day. The first day on, this depends. I either go the morning of or before work. Just
I,
depends
I,
on how my day goes for the most part. But the second day usually I don't go because I just got off work and then I got to work the next day. So that's like my rest day for the most part.
yeah. So I used to do that a lot where I worked out the first day, then skip second, went the third. But now I'm trying to prioritize sleep, man. Even though today I had a busy day, I probably got 4 hours of sleep, 2 BH. It is what it is. It sucks. But I try to get my 6 plus, man, 6.5
Mm.
if I can. So I stopped working out on like back to backs, man. I think sleep is a better form of self love.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I feel good. Just that second day is probably the worst. Yeah, usually if I even if I want to go to gym on the second day, I don't, because then there's no way I could probably get enough rest, and I'm for sure waking up groggy and tired for a third night. It's
Yeah.
not worth my time.
And on top of sleep, diet, and being active, you have to get your nutrition on. So we talked about meal prepping. There's a full episode on it. But long story short, the bottom line is you got to feed yourself the right shit, because you're not going to have crashes. You're going to feel more satisfied, better energy, less fatigued, and like the mental clarity. So whatever works for you guys, you just got to get your nutrition in. You got to eat healthy. You got to eat whole food, plant-based. Drill it into the head, Peter. They already know.
Yeah, that's true. And even if like people that keep arguing like the cost, it's cheaper to go to McDonald's or eat fast food. I mean, it's really not. I actually tried the Popeye chicken sandwich today. It's delicious, the spicy one, so good. I paid like $6 for two sandwiches, which is actually a pretty good price point from here in Chicago. Um, but that's only that's only for one meal. You know, how much chicken tenders can you eat? You can't really keep eating them because you're gonna get sick of them. But like $20 could go a decent way, especially if you do like Uber Eats or any kind of those like food services where they deliver to you. Those are expensive. Like I know one time I ordered like 3 things, I pay like $30 some, which is ridiculous. So whoever says that it's cheaper for me to stay at home and just have food delivered to me, it's really not, because it does you got to pay for the processing fee and a delivery fee, which is usually like $10 more than what the thing costs in the first place. And plus, I
And
feel like companies upcharge their food from like Uber Eats and stuff. Like the price that they have listed on there is usually more than what it actually costs. Like if you actually go there.
plus, remember, were you there when we ordered some Uber Eats and we got the wrong delivery?
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
annoying. Where we got yeah, we ordered like 4 sundaes, but we got chicken nuggets and fries instead.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. So you might order food and might not even be yours. So screw that completely, guys. Save some money, meal prep. It's a lot better. And the other one is caffeine. So this is one of those things where you could be overly caffeinated on days, but I've been trying to do. I could do tea all night long, or I'll do a cup of coffee at 6 p.m. and that's it. And I'll have one cup of coffee the whole day. So that could work out for you guys. It just depends. But caffeine is one of those things that, like, if you consume too much, yes, you can go to bed still, but the half life, you're still gonna have caffeine in your body and it affects like the amount of REM sleep you could get. So try to cut back on caffeine. Like even in the mornings when I used to work out and take like a scoop of pre-workout and had 325 milligrams of caffeine, which is like 2 cups of coffee, man, I was going to sleep and I felt like not satisfied, even though I got like 7 hours. It's just because you just weren't going, deep enough into your REM.
And that makes sense. Yeah, I know the same thing. Like if I drink coffee too late, I have trouble falling asleep. But I don't know. For me, that kind of wore off. I guess I could usually fall asleep almost basically as an instant after a shift. After a shift, I for sure have no issues falling asleep. It's just more like on my days off sometimes. If I'm just at a three in a row, that fourth or fifth day that I'm off after three in a row, that's usually the hardest for me to fall asleep. But I drink a lot of caffeine in general, which probably I should try to cut back on. But there's days where I don't drink caffeine. I do get a little bit of a headache, but nothing serious. Maybe when I was in Baltimore, I got, but then no, that's different reason. I was sick, but I noticed that if I drink a lot of caffeine for 3 shifts, and the next day I don't drink caffeine, it definitely plays a role in everything. And like the withdrawal is pretty legit. Like you get a headache, you're kind of moody, and then if I drink a cup of coffee, it goes away, even though I try not to. But the whole tea thing that you were saying is, I started bringing tea to work, and I brought it to work like 5 times, and I haven't ended up drinking it. I'm drinking coffee and the water for the most part, but maybe it's just the flavor of tea because I have that tea where it tastes like has like a smoky flavor, which I don't even like in the first place. But I'm just drinking just to get rid of it because I don't want to be wasteful.
It's good. Alrighty, so I think we're good on the nursing on the night shift tips. You want to bounce out to the next topic?
Yeah. So after surviving night shift, now I got to worry about how to basically survive as a nurse. So us nurses go through a lot of struggles, and there's controversial things that we feel at work, and one of those happens to be seeing death. We work in a very stressful environment, and these things are hard to work through, especially with like in your 20s. Like imagine getting out of school and then you get hit with one of the most stressful jobs in the world where you could literally experience death on a daily basis, which is very scary. So a lot of nurses have issues coping with death, and just it's very traumatic, not only for the patient's family and the patient, but also for nurses. Like I know a lot of nurses take that to heart, and you can't really take a death to heart, for a nursing standpoint, at least in my opinion.
That's why. So, like, yeah, that's one of those worst parts of healthcare that we don't talk about is seeing death and dealing with death and dealing with the family because they're going through this whole thing. And we talked about it on the podcast before. We just have to learn to like detach. It takes a little bit of time. It depends on the emotional level that you are and where you are in life, but you have to learn how to like let go and have that off switch and separate from work and life because we deal with death and we just have to become acceptant of what it is and what happens, right? Because you can take that shit home.
Yeah, it's definitely easier for certain patients than others because we know that patient that's been out of unit for for a few months, and you think they're getting better, and one day they just shit hits the fan, and they're gone, and you kind of mourn kind of with the family just because you've known that patient for so long compared to that patient that's been there a day or two where they're gonna die, and they do end up dying. It doesn't hit you as hard as the one that's been there for a while. I can imagine, especially if people are like in the rehab facilities where they're working with that patient for so long, and that patient maybe been there for 3 or 4 months at a time, and they end up passing away. So I feel like if you bond a lot with the patient, it's definitely a lot harder to let them go than somebody that's been there for maybe a day or two.
It's interesting because the units that I've worked on, we never had patients longer than like maybe 20 days max. So it's, excuse me. It's interesting how you guys have it where the patients are on the unit for like 20 plus days a month. You said even half a year.
Yeah, there's just depends. Like if they're like a heart transplant or like a lung, we obviously want to keep them on unit just because the surgeon and physicians are there, the ones that did the surgery that, are taking charge. We're not gonna send them home if we know that they're not in a good, like, stable place. Because, if we send them home, some people live like 4 or 5 hours away and they come in for a heart, they're not gonna come back to our facility. They're gonna go to a different hospital and the hospital's gonna send them right back just because it's our heart that we did. So there's it's more like a gray line. We don't want to release them when they're too sick, and unfortunately there's patients that stay there for like a very long time, which is rough, and families there, and surgeries just don't always go as planned. Like, you think the patient's doing good. We had a patient that, I don't know, that probably came in and out maybe like 3 or 4 times, where we thought that he was going to die, and he did not end up dying. He did not end up dying until like the fourth time.
And yeah, there's a lot of procedures that just like you said, don't go according to plan. I remember one patient I had that needed to get a few things done, and it led from just getting a femoral bypass to just getting the below the knee amputation. Like sometimes things get complicated, and just with all the comorbidities that like patients come with. The next one that we could cover is the pressure of knowing everything. That's something that we don't talk about often, but we have a tremendous pressure to have all the freaking answers literally that the patients could think of. And sometimes it's so specific to like, how long are they going to be in the hospital, or when will this tube be taken out? Like, the questions are so opinion and biased that like you can't answer them sometimes, man, because like I don't have the answers, and it's so much pressure on the nurse, and that makes it stressful for her because you have to answer to people that you're dealing with their life, and you don't know the answers, and they look at you like you're like an unknowledgeable person.
Right. Yeah. Like, let's say, if you work in a specialized field, let's say you do like GI compared to cardiac. Like, if a patient comes in with a cardiac issue and a cardiologist comes in, he starts saying a bunch of stuff that you don't know what the hell's going on, because, like you said, you're like a GI unit that deals with like bowel surgeries. You're obviously not going to have the best cardiac knowledge, and then, a physician comes in. Why isn't this done? Why are you doing this instead of this? Why is this medication on? And you kind of feel like competent. Like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm sure the physician doesn't know a lot about what's going on with the GI surgeries because he's a cardiologist. But the fact, I feel like, especially nurses, the fact that they don't know an answer to a question is, you get like a giant feeling of almost incompetence, which isn't fair to anybody to say. But, like, on a personal level, like, if somebody asks me a question and I don't know it, like an NP or a physician, I feel like shit. Like, I feel like I should have known it. Like, why don't I know that answer? Even if it's like something that I haven't seen in years, or something that I don't even deal with. Even like with like the electrophysiology of the heart, or where the MI is, like things that some people know, not everyone's gonna know it, and you do feel incompetent even though you don't work with it on a daily basis.
I think that's what might prevent me from going to day shift is that pressure to be around doctors, around family, constantly being bombarded and just not knowing. And I do want to try night shift no matter what. I want to go eventually, but I think you just scratched the whole mic
Sorry.
there. You just lost my train of thought. But it makes it so much harder to hold on, I'm blanking out here. See, this is what
Transition.
happens to like transition from like nights to days if the pressure is that great because you deal with so much things. But I'm gonna want to do it maybe after the contract's over, because I feel like my quality of life could be a lot better working days.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, my issue with day shift is just, you kind of say, I feel like I would have less autonomy and less freedom. I feel like I would have to always ask people if I could do this. Should I start this medication? Is it okay if I do this medication instead of this medication? Is it okay if I do this instead of this? Compared to a night shift, where you kind of troubleshoot right there on the spot with more autonomy, and then, I don't want to say deal with the consequence later, but you page later. Basically, you got to fix them now, and then you kind of deal with the orders later for the most part, compared to having to ask everybody every kind of question. But I mean, it'll be nice having somebody there that's always there to help you, which would be pretty solid. If you don't know the answer, you can just page out, and usually you get a page within a few minutes, ideally.
Yeah, so that's what's the difference in Kaiser, man, is like the doctors are on call. Dude, they pick up so quick. They put all their orders in. You don't put any orders in as a nurse in Kaiser. Like the nurses are really spoiled. So it's kind of interesting how you're talking from one perspective, right? But the other perspectives is like where I'm working is, bro, there's everything always there. Even like the intubation, man, I didn't touch anything. I feel like I'm losing my skill. So it's interesting that the night shift here, everything is covered. There's a doctor, there's a MD always in the facility, which is cool. And they come up and around in the ICU and like ask if you need anything. It's interesting.
So how was the intubation different in Kaiser compared to where we were before?
We had a resident that came in. I had the RSI kit, which is the rapid sequence intubation kit. I was pushing the medications, drawing them up. Here, anesthesia came with another partner, and her partner pushed all the medications. I didn't touch anything. Respiratory did the whole breathing tube management. I was just hanging out with both of my hands like this on the freaking rail. Do you guys need anything? No.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it seems like that's basically the way we do it over here where I work. Just anesthesia usually comes in. Sometimes they bring a resident, sometimes they don't. Just depends on how teaching is going. And then sometimes they tend to push their own meds. You usually just ask, "Do you want to push your own med? Do you not?" Some of them want to push their own meds, some of them don't. And if they don't, you push it for them, and then you kind of just stand back, let them do their business. Maybe move the patient down a little bit in bed or up, and then just the head of the bed, and they come and do their business, and they leave.
And
Kind of how.
another interesting thing is, not to get sidetracked, is there's no intraosseous kits in the ICU. So normally we could do an intraosseous, which is an IO. For those that don't know, it's basically a needle that gets drilled into the bone if you don't have an IV site. So they don't do it in the ICU. They don't have it at all. And it's crazy because it's critical care. Like if things are going down, we can't start an IV. What are we going to do? And they only have it in the ER.
To be honest, I don't think we even stuck in um, interosseous in our ICU. I think we got to go down to ER if we need to start one, because I don't know. I haven't seen. I've had somebody come in on it, but I've never seen it started in our unit.
Yeah, it's every single facility has a different. It's interesting how there's no like standard practice, right? And just like the pharmaceutical industry we talk about, that's rigged too because of there's no standard in America.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
another
don't know.
part, just to kind of keep rolling with the topics, the next one is taking care of drug addicted patients. That's one thing that is not talked about healthcare, which makes it bad. That we sometimes have to give pain medications and technically give a high to a patient that is drug seeking, and we're aware of it, but we can't do anything because pain is subjective for a lot of people that know that, and we can't. You can't lie at pain rating. Technically, I can't say you're not in pain, Peter, because you're not frowning. Patients saying 7 out of 10, and you have to believe them. And what happens? We push freaking pain medication. Oh, like a patient told me once, or like this week, that she likes her Dilaudid with Benadryl because it helps with her nausea. And Benadryl is, of course, a medication for itchiness, and if you have hives or if you have a drug reaction. But for her, Benadryl is nausea medication, and she likes to get it pushed with. What happened? Of course, she was freaking snowed out.
Oh yeah, for sure. She probably got a nice little high, and then went straight out to bed. I don't really deal with too much seekers because we look at a heart failure unit, which usually if someone uses drugs and has heart failure, they tend to, unfortunately, usually die sooner than people that have heart failure and don't use drugs. But we did have a few of them where you can kind of tell sometimes where even like with like the narcos, like old ladies and their narcos, they have like a little ritual where it's like like kind of similar to you with the guy fentanyl Benadryl, where this lady wants like a Tylenol, a Norco 10, and like a Tramadol. It's like, yo, chill out, lady. You're like, we're like barely 80 pounds. I'm not gonna give you all this at once. Even
Well,
though
they
she's
have
been doing this, at home, I'm not gonna do it just because she probably built a tolerance to it. I'm still not gonna do it just for safety. I'm not gonna, you know, give them Narcan. at 3 o'clock in the morning because they're not breathing anymore.
Yeah, that's like one guy that I had that came in for ETOH withdrawals, and we found out that like this guy took like a Xanax that night with like 2 shots of vodka or 3 daily, and his wife didn't know, and she's like, "No, he hasn't drank alcohol in 6 months, but clearly it was ETOH, man, because you can't fake that, you know." The next topic that we're going to cover that makes healthcare bad is the lack of respect from other people in the medical industry. And that could be anything from lateral abuse or vertical or horizontal. I'm sorry, horizontal or vertical, meaning horizontal among nurses. Sometimes we have that. There's that queen bee syndrome that we talk about, or the other kind of verbal abuse where it could be from like physicians where they, treat us like shit, don't respect us, or I haven't noticed it here in Cali, but sometimes you'll get verbal abuse or they'll kind of like talk you down.
Like, especially probably like when you're newer, I can see that happening. I haven't really noticed. I mean, not that I don't remember anything happened to me when I was newer, and I haven't really noticed anything recently. But there is, certain people that I see they get talked down to, and that's kind of, it's not very professional in the first place, and doesn't want the nurse to call that physician or call that NP to get ordered. It just puts up a barrier for the most part. If you're in conflict, or if a nurse is afraid to ask certain questions, or she just feels like incompetent, then obviously that's going to affect the patient's care. So I don't think you should degrade anybody for a lack of knowledge, or anything like that, just because of because your position is more superior than somebody else's. I just don't think it's fair. But personally, I haven't really seen that done very much to me, and if it has, I probably just brushed it off and felt like it was no big deal.
Yeah. Well, see, you have that mentality, but there's nurses that like literally cried when a doctor told them something. I had this nurse that I knew that like literally was crying, and it happens. Or that's that day shift, right? That pressure where something might happen and they get like, they feel very emotional about it.
Mm, yeah.
And that's that abuse that could happen. And another one is hospital politics. That's why I did travel nursing, because hospital politics happen and it sucks, especially for like staff nursing, man. When you're a staff, you always have to deal with the little things that happen on the unit, and all that jazz.
Exactly. Like, I don't know what to think of, like a patient, like you have a lot of falls on unit. So now you got, fill out like a hourly rounding sheet or something. I feel like if something isn't up to standards or the stats aren't right, they end up giving us something to fill out, some kind of a paperwork to, show that we are abiding by the rules. And
We
that
as
just adds more work to us, and a lot of nurses end up not doing or skipping over. And it's not even, most of the time it's not even like a valid piece of paper that you could show to the state. It's just something that the unit does.
we as nurses, I feel like we always just we talk about short end of the stick. We always get like the punishment. So if something doesn't get done, we punish. Um, there's a meeting, there's a freaking UTI or cause from a Foley. We always get punished. Hey, take out your Foley catheters earlier. Now every single charge nurse has to audit. So there's always forms of punishment for healthcare. Like it sucks, and that's like what kind of creates that like toxic environment too. When you're constantly getting like bashed, like your shifts suck. You got meetings and they kind of bash you, and it just like it's not an environment you want to be around sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes they do like rewards. I know on our unit they're doing, if you pull like a Foley within the first, I think, 4 or 6 hours over your shift, whoever pulls like the most Foley's gets like a weekend off or something. So, because now, I don't know, there's like a hospital wide driven Foley pulling thing going on, where I guess hospitals are getting a lot of, or not a lot of, but more than the state amount required UTIs or whatever the numbers are. But that's what they're doing. If you pull a certain amount of Foley's, if you pull the most on the unit, you get the weekend off,
They're
which
very
would be,
they're
which is like okay. But then if you think about it, sometimes these new nurses, especially because I feel like turnover rates is high now, and you're getting a lot of new nurses. I feel like some nurses are going to pull that Foley too quick, and then they're going to end up putting a new one in, or it's going to cause some pain or some bladder distension to the patient.
that, or like, man, if you have a patient on Lasix and they don't technically need the Foley, but you want to monitor, I'm not pulling that damn thing just to get a little ribbon at the end of the month. Like, I want to keep it. not for this. I mean, technically I want to keep it to make my shift easier. That's the reality, right? But I still want to monitor the eyes and nose. But usually I just kind of like look at what the order is. If it says pull post-op day 2, I will. But usually I like my Foley's in for the sake of making my shift easier. It's already freaking hard if, you got the ones she's gonna pee so damn much. You're gonna change that. You gotta double chuck it. You're gonna change like 3-4 times a shift, and it just becomes backbreaking, man. Foley's are convenience.
Yeah, it does, especially like I'm the same way. I mean, is there gonna be a lot of damage done to the patient? Is the patient gonna get UTI because you left the Foley in overnight? I mean, I don't know 100% sure, but I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna get UTI within like the 12 hours that they're in. If they already got a UTI, it's probably from before. But I like to get my Foley's into, especially because night shift, like you said, it's his eyes and nose, and a lot of these patients, if you pull a Foley, they're sometimes incontinent for the first couple of times, and just going in there, changing them, and now you're getting inaccurate eyes and nose, and then the cardiologist comes in and be like, hey, you didn't chart any kind of eyes and nose. I'm like, yeah, I charted them, but I didn't catch any because the patient was incontinent because I had to pull a Foley because of this whole nurse-driven protocol thing that's going on. But yeah, I like to keep mine in, especially if they're like on a 40 of Lasix IV. It's a lot. Going consistently through your body. It gets too much. Like some
Especially,
people, especially people come with heart failure, their CVP is like through the roof, like 16, and you got diuresis. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that Foley, and I'm not gonna have them come in and empty urinal every 2 hours because they peed a liter. It's like, no, that Foley is gonna stay in up until we decrease the Lasix at least.
see, you have it so much different because you work at a straight cardiac unit, so you deal with the Lasix and all that. Another politic one that we want to mention, which makes healthcare worse sometimes, is the politics where it sucks, and then you hear nurses talk about it constantly. I don't know if you had a toxic environment before, but like if the politics suck, they talk about it during your shift. Like everything is so negative sometimes that doesn't make you want to work there.
Yeah, like there's the management politics. They do the things I mean. So management-wise, the politics are, we're not meeting these standards. Let's add these forms that nurses got to fill out. So the management politics are, if nurses aren't hitting the quotas or the goals, we're gonna need to incorporate measures to make them hit those. And then there's unit politics, which is like you and your coworkers, where you know this clique doesn't get along with this clique. This nurse isn't doing this, and people like to talk shit. And you work with the same people for the most part, and eventually someone's gonna talk shit about somebody, and it's just like the vicious politics on a unit.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. Let's jump into the next topic since we're already like hitting a 40-minute mark as are per usual. Working on holidays and weekends. We all know that freaking sucks. And it happens to most of us. Most of us have to work every other. I've worked every third before, but usually it's every other. And it's usually, you have the rotating holidays and you're away from family. And we as nurses make those sacrifices, which completely sucks.
Yeah, like looking from an outside perspective, before I became a nurse, I felt, oh, I can work every other weekend. It's not like I do everything every weekend anyways. You don't really think it's that big of a deal. But when you finally start working those weekends, you hate it. Like it sucks because you realize, I feel like the more you get older, the more stuff you do on weekends. It's not about just like partying or going out. It's like that's your family time. That's your time to do things around the house. That's just like to do things in general because that's when everyone's off. That's time. Usually when people go shopping, people usually don't go shopping during the week because they work during the week. So even though when you're younger, weekends are more for, like I said before, for partying, for hanging out. When you get older, it's weekends are more for enjoying your personal time and just doing stuff in general.
It's like
And
engraved in
like
our
we lose that.
brain.
Yeah, we lose that. Like for holidays, I mean, I don't really care about working for holidays at this age, just because I don't have any kids, and basically the holidays have been the same for me for the past like 25 years, which isn't that big of a deal. So usually I don't mind picking up the holidays so somebody else could have them off because, like I said, I've been doing the same stuff for holidays for 25 years. Maybe when I'm older and have a family, I would definitely want to get it off. But now that I'm younger, I'd rather take that differential than go to holidays because I see my family whenever I want in the first place. Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be different for you because, like, if you're traveling now, I'm sure if you travel, let's say 12 months out of the year, which is the whole year, I'm sure you would want to come over the holidays compared to if you saw your family already on a daily basis.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that I actually have to do. I actually have to email one of the schedulers and see if I could have something tweaked where I could come in for Christmas. Because when I
Mm,
accepted the contract, they didn't allow me anything. So we'll have to
nothing.
play it by ear.
So would you already, did they tell you required to work every holiday, or they just said, we'll see what we could do?
I don't know because I'm off Thanksgiving and
Mm.
both eve or prior to day before. So I'm not going to get any overtime. And it's because I have a high, hourly rate for overtime. So they're not scheduling me. So now I have to find out about Christmas to see if I'm even going to work.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the last one is outdated equipment and technology. So that becomes so annoying. There's always little things that I notice that could be done or could be upgraded. Like a big thing here in this Kaiser facility is the vital signs do not like go over when you have like the cart ones, the vital sign machines. And if you do a glucose check, it doesn't carry over to the flow sheet when you dock it. You have to manually chart the blood sugar.
Huh.
What
That's
I'm
weird.
saying.
Yeah, that's annoying. Like, I know for our vitals usually always carry over. The only time that they don't carry over if there's like a communication issue, and then it's usually fixed with like a refresh kind of thing where you add the room to your computer. But for me, I feel like we have solid pretty solid stuff from a technological aspect. It's the more of the issue is it working? Like we have these cool things that we have on the unit that sometimes don't even work, and you're just like, this is just a waste of space. Or even like our scanners, like they're real cool because you scan the patient, you scan the med, it tells you right on that screen, the medication, the dose. It'll flag it if it's the wrong dose. It'll flag if it's the wrong med. But sometimes those things don't always work, so you got to manually go to the computer and chart them, especially when they're doing like the reboots or
Yeah.
they're doing like a system update where it's usually at nights because you're not gonna do it on days because God forbid they do it on days, the whole hospital would shut down. I feel like, but like I said, from my perspective, it's more of not low quality technology. It's more of like having a technology, work consistently.
That is true. So like one of them, like in when I used to work in Lagrange, um, there was like a little barcode on the pumps, and you scan the med, you scan the pump, and everything carried over to the flow sheet instead of manually doing it. Even the drips, so you had insulin, everything carried over. And the thing is yeah, it's cool. This is better technology, but it was so slow to load, so slow to open up. So now this technology that's supposed to make it easier for us is actually slowing us down. Just like in Oakland, like we had to manually print out the labels and fill them out and sign it and then co-sign it with another nurse because they didn't have like barcode technology there. So
That was so annoying. Every morning you had to like literally write out all these like this paperwork and all these labels. Like, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but and it wasn't crazy time consuming. It was just annoying. Like sometimes when you get the new patient where it needs like a brand new full set of labs plus like 6 other ones, you're just like, dude, like it's just ridiculous. Like there's a better method for this, and then no one wants to implement it. I don't know if they can't afford to implement it or they didn't want to, but I feel like that hospital was like planning on getting shut down sometime soon. Not that it was a bad hospital. I feel like maybe someone's gonna take it over and just change things up a lot.
yeah, there's a lot of politics that we don't know about that happen. And I talked to my director, the prior one in the past, when she was talking about spendings, and we didn't realize like how everything is distributed and how much they have to actually charge to make it work.
Yeah, have you ever looked on a computer how much the meds cost the patients?
Yeah, sometimes I do. It's outrageous.
Dude, it's ridiculous price. So some of these meds are hundreds of dollars where, you go over the counter, like aspirin, things like that, like Tylenol, those get charged insane amount of amounts where like 2 pills cost more than like the 30 count in Walgreens, which is ridiculous.
That's
Especially
just
especially some of these drips where they go for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it's insane. And they go home on some of these drips, and you're just like, holy shit, this is so expensive.
and yeah, and that's one of those topics that we had when I had it with the director, and she said that's how the hospital makes money. That the price point has to be that high because that's the only way the hospital is going to be able to, you know, make even or make profit in this case because they have to pay everybody that works for food services, all the utilities. You got the surgeons, every little part in that patient's care like has to get accounted for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how insurance goes through all that because I know when someone goes to hospital, they don't get necessarily charged per thing on a bill. They get like a when their bill comes in, it's like a bundle, I believe. I haven't seen an insurance like a slip. Like I haven't seen an insurance bill for a while, but the last time I saw them, it was like it's like a bundle. It doesn't say like you took this. It's just like a bundle. This is what we did, and this is what constitutes discharge.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap this one up? We're
Yeah.
really past 40 minutes, guys. I think we talk sometimes too much. But if you have listened this long, here's some exclusive info. If you feel like you could potentially be a guest on the show, because that's who we're looking for, or if you know somebody that has a cool perspective, that's a nurse, that's a doctor, that's a student, somebody that is basically you would consider a good speaker, let us know. Tell them to reach out to us, and we're willing to bring them on and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, or somebody's doing some, groundbreaking stuff, some cool research, someone that's trying to implement new ideas. We're welcome to that just because, what's better way to share your ideas than, talk about them and have people listen to them.
Exactly. Alrighty, guys. We will see you guys next week, guys. Take care. Have a good night.